There has been a lot of patches in the history of Overwatch, ones that are actually good, and others which completely ruin the experience for everyone on the receiving end of a specific hero. Today, we're going to be talking about a patch that disrupted the live servers and aided in one of the most controversial moments in Overwatch League history. 2020 was a bad time for a lot of people. The world was under attack. Overwatch League was being strung together by sticks and stones, and gaming sessions were being ruined by Roadhog. In my eyes, the most poorly designed hero in Overwatch. He's either brokenly overpowered or a piece of trash. Roadhog is tough to balance, of course, so we'll probably never find a medium, unfortunately. In mid to late 2020, Blizzard decided to roll the dice and try buffing him again, creating a monstrosity. First, making his ultimate knockback increased, which obviously didn't do anything noticeable, and then they lowered his ammo count but increased his damage. Roadhog players were having the time of their life, and up to this point, one-shotting was never this strong since like the early Overwatch days. He was running rampant in ranked games, being a problem from bottom to top. It was a really weird tank meta of double off tank, and I don't really think that ever happened before, and obviously that can't happen anymore, so most likely the only time it ever happened. Hog Zarya was what most people played. It was really annoying if you were on the receiving end. Needless to say, it got reverted in Blizzard speed, meaning Roadhog was broken for about 2 months, and this bled right into Overwatch League's playoffs. Initially, no one really thought much of Roadhog at this level since pro players have always been able to counter him quite easily all throughout history, aside from a select few metas, hence why Roadhog at the highest level was just never played. This time it was different. At first, it was only one team using this Hog Zarya comp, that being Washington Justice, North America's worst team. They were really bad, like I cannot exaggerate that, like stinky poo-poo bad. Which is very shocking considering they had Janu and Stitch from 2019 Vancouver Titans. Towards the end of Washington's season, they also picked up Decay. I don't know the ruling of everything behind the league, but apparently this pickup was very shady and rules were bent in order for this to happen. Lots of people in the scene were not happy this pickup even transpired. Supposedly, Decay was being very toxic behind the scenes on his previous team, Dallas Fuel, where he was refusing to practice, benching himself throughout the season, just didn't want any part of Dallas Fuel at all. Going further into this controversy rabbit hole, this was also a year where every team got their participation trophy playoffs opportunity, meaning regardless of how shit your team was, you could have gone 0-50 and you'd still have a chance at play-ins. This, of course, is, wrong. That's not fair to anyone at all, aside from the ones who performed terribly throughout the year. Like, what was the point of doing a regular season if everyone can be in play-ins? And knowing how competitive Overwatch works, a team can have a lot of bad metas, do terrible throughout all of it, but when they hit a good meta, they can beat the best teams, which brings us to the Stinky Poo Poo franchise. When Washington Justice walked out the gates with their new team comp, Ashe, Tracer, Roadhog, Zarya, Mercy, and Ana, people thought it was stupid, like not that great. They're just playing a fat man with his family. Nothing good's gonna come out of this. Hog is bad at this level, yada yada. We're just gonna skip over the Vancouver Titans play-in match because like, that sums up the whole match right there, and there's nothing else to say. Our actual first match was an interesting one, considering how Decay benched himself on Dallas Fuel, leaves the team, and absolutely beats the piss out of them on Washington Justice. Like, it was a pure beatdown. Decay on Zarya was not an entirely new look for him, considering he was playing Zarya on Gladiators during GOATs, but like, holy shit, what he was doing was not okay. The team was on a whole new level of coordination, and Decay was clearly adding something in and out of server to allow for the rest of his team to be amped up. Everyone was on point, they were playing really well, and in the moment, people were obviously impressed, considering how dysfunctional Justice looked all throughout 2020, but also thinking at the same time, Dallas Fuel isn't even a good team, so cool, you beat one of the other brain-dead teams. Let's see you guys against a real opponent. After Washington Justice won this match, San Francisco Shock picked them as an opponent, North America's best team. They're gonna show Washington who the real big boys are. Except it took them a while. Washington ended up winning map 1, which was pretty close. It could have gone either way. Then proceeded to get one of the fastest Kings Row pushes of all time, 4 minutes and 40 seconds. The stats were 23 kills for Justice, 0 kills for Shock, an absolute path of destruction if we've ever seen one. I don't think a single team did that, period, to the Shock throughout 2020 on any map. If you watched the league during this year, you know how good San Francisco was. And just think about this for a second. The worst team in North America just took a team who won 2 stages and only lost 3 matches throughout the season, crumpled them up, threw them in the garbage, pushed their shit in, and set one of the fastest completions on Kings Row up to this point. People then started to become worried, like, is this team actually going to bring shock to Pound Town and go to playoffs? Most were in agreement Washington Justice should not be here at all, considering how bad their earlier performances were. To twist the knife even further, these 2 maps Washington won during play-ins against Shock were the only maps they won against the Shock throughout the entirety of this season. This meta was just absolutely perfect for Justice and brought them all to a whole new level. Each player was on their best hero. Janu on Hog, Tuba was there, Stitch on Ashe, Arc Mercy, and Decay Zarya. Now, Decay is known for Tracer play, but if you've seen these matches, you know how devastating his Zarya was for the opposition. It's one of the most insane Zarya performances in the history of this game. Washington seemed to go all in on the Decay Zarya, pocket him, nano him, do whatever you need to do and make him win the game for you, and it was clearly working. Janu Hog was also really good. He had fantastic hook and right click accuracy, looking to be a top player on this hero in North America. The tank line was disgusting. I also wanted to highlight Stitch because he was doing some insane things as well on Ashe, showing moments of the Stitch we saw on Runaway. Nobody really talks about him during this Washington playoff run since Decay and Janu take all the spotlight away, but Stitch really went crazy throughout these matches. This patch right here is the reason most do not like playoff patches, as they're known as. When Blizzard decides right before their largest tournament of the year, just make this random huge change, stuff like this happens. Buffing Roadhog to the degree they did enabled this ridiculous comp where Justice thrived in the chaos and became a true powerhouse when they otherwise shouldn't be. During the previous tournament, the Countdown Cup, Justice was not good at all. They were going into the playoffs 4-17. The only team worse was Boston Uprising at 2-19. It's actually ridiculous. Shock ended up reverse sweeping Washington. That final control map was actually insane and could have gone either way. It was a sign of relief for almost everyone. It was just way too close, sending them down to the lower bracket, and the teams down there were no slouches. There's more tough opponents ahead. The first match was against Paris Eternal. They won Summer Showdown, having Sparkle, Hanbin, Fielder. Exy was an MVP candidate, having a ridiculous year. And going into this match, people were actually favoring the Justice for the first time, and I think literally ever. Washington versus Paris was a joke. Decay laid it down on these kids, beating them into a pulp. Like, seriously, it was not close at all. You know a team is internally booming when they put Sparkle on tank and have him play Zarya. They had no answer for it. Washington beat the snot out of them. Third NA seed was gone. Their season was over, eliminated by number 12. Moving on to the LA Valiant, who was actually a respected roster at this point in time. They had an unexpectedly good season, coming in playoffs at the 5th seed, and initially, Valiant had a great performance against Washington Justice, taking map 1 away in dominant fashion. We all thought in the moment, they've done it. Washington Justice is going to get the hell out. Nobody wants them here. Lots of the community was genuinely pissed about Washington knocking Paris out, who actually earned their spot in play-ins. So Gunbutt and the Valiant have finally done it. Right after map 1, it was a pure beatdown. Washington took McGravy and friends, shoved them all into lockers, taking their lunch money away, forcing the LA Valiant to get into the loser cruiser and pack their bags home, ruining their season. Another team that actually earned their way into play-ins got beat down. The 5th seed, season over, eliminated by number 12. Finally, the third match, Florida Mayhem, their redemption season, since McDonald's Mayhem was very bad. 2018 and 2019, this team sucked, but when they decided to go pink, everything became good. Coming in at 4th seed, a great season by them, making a stage final during May Melee, but who cares about that? Not the Justice. They grabbed Florida by the breast and pulled as hard as they could, and these poor guys got put right into the trash can. Seed 5, 4, and 3 all just got dominated by the 12th seed. These matches were not close at all. No one had an answer to this Roadhog Zarya comp. Everyone mocked it, they laughed, said it's never going to work, but here we were. One match left against Philly Fusion. If they won, they would be in the Final Four against Shock, Seoul, and Shanghai. At this point, viewers were very split, even though Philadelphia Fusion was a great team, the number 1 seed in fact. It was not unreasonable for people to actually vote for Washington here. Plus, if you consider the Fusion curse of getting second place at every point in time, Nothing would fit more into the Philly curse narrative than the bottom seed knocking them out. This was probably one of the most intense matches of all time, especially watching it live. There was a serious chance of Washington winning. There was so much on the line here. And they also just announced Fleta's MVP winning right before the third map. I don't really understand what that was, but alright. Fusion ended up winning 3-0 against Washington. Looking back, it would have been funny for Washington to win, but I'm glad they didn't. Philly used what ended up being the meta for grand finals, Zarya being taken out with Sigma taking her place, and surprise surprise, Roadhog ended up being the kingpin of the team comp for the final four. As we all know, Shock ended up winning this season for the back-to-back championships. No one expected this buff Roadhog received to cause so much chaos in pro play. Obviously, you're going to see it dominate ranked, but the coordination and synergies teams have at the top level is the reason stuff like Roadhog was never played. This time it was different. Blizzard turned him into a killing machine, creating the most controversial patch in Overwatch history. Some viewers did enjoy the chaos Justice allowed for all of us to witness. I actually enjoyed rewatching these play-ins, but you can't help but to feel for the Valiant, Mayhem, and Paris who actually earned their spot as a higher end team in North America just to get snubbed out due to a last-minute patch implemented by Blizzard. There are also people who put the blame on the teams for not adapting to Roadhog, but the main issue arises from how Washington had a terrible season and just got handed a golden ticket to do this. If it was a team who actually earned their spot, then sure, Justice did not earn it. That's the bottom line. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the Washington Justice during 2020, especially if you were there watching it live. Do you wish they made it to the Final Four? Make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Make sure to subscribe for more Overwatch content if you have not already. And if you're interested, make sure to check out my other video on a man who carried Overwatch 2019's League season by being a bonehead.